The Culture Pop Podcast is brought to you by the law offices of Jacob Emrani.
Accident or injury, call Jacob Emrani. Call Jacob.
Hey, it's Mase. If you or a friend or loved one is injured in an accident, the first person you should call is my friend Jacob. When I did this, Jacob was great. He helped me by talking through the next steps, which really put my mind at ease. When you're injured in an accident, you got to have an expert. That's why you call Jacob, just like I did. Call Jacob, 844-24-JACOB. That's 844-24-JACOB, or visit calljacob.com.
Call Jacob.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Culture Pop Podcast. I'm Steve Mason, along with Sue 𝐏𝐚𝐮𝐥. This is the show where we talk about everything happening in the world of pop culture. Great show today. Terrific actor Paul Guilfoyle is going to join us. 14 years on CSI and a new movie out called Any Day Now. Sue, you and I have not done this in a couple of weeks, I think, right?
At least.
Yeah, because we've both gone on vacations. What did you do with your time away?
I went to Florida for a wedding.
Nice. Who got married?
My niece.
Cool.
Tom's niece, my niece.
Yeah.
And the night we got there, I left my purse in a lift.
Oh, that is a terrible feeling.
I got it back.
You did? How'd you get it back?
Persistence.
Police bulletin?
Well, Lyft doesn't have, they have really, really poor customer service. So it's all AI generated through their app, and then they'll email you as well. But it's so impersonal.
Yeah.
And, I had the guy's name. I had his license plate. I made a police report.
Did you really? Wow.
I did. Well,
Yeah,
because
that's smart. That's smart. Yeah.
Well, I was traveling, and so that was on Saturday. It was Friday night,
Yeah.
and then, so then Saturday, filed a police report. Then Sunday, I just kept on hammering the AI responses.
Good.
This is really urgent. I'm flying out on Thursday. My license is there. I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to get on my flight. How could you not contact the driver?
Right.
And they kept on saying that they contacted the driver, but he wasn't responding. And I thought, did he take my bag? I was worried that some other passenger took the bag.
Yeah, that could be too. Yeah.
So then when he wasn't responding, either way, I said, I just want to know, did he see it? Was it not there? And then I started to get Sue crazy.
Okay.
What is going on with this driver? Like, is this the kind of driver you want representing your company? He's not responding. What's going on? So I only stayed in St. Pete for a couple of days, and then we drove to Stewart, which is 4 hours away,
Okay.
to spend the rest of my vacation with Tom's family.
Yeah.
And Sunday night, I'm like complete obsessive. And right before I went to bed, I got a message on a text that said, you have a message on your Lyft app. And I just figured it's the same thing. We're trying to contact them, blah, blah, blah. And they said that the driver found it.
Nice.
And then he wrote on the text, call me when you can. And then it's so long, but I finally got it back.
You did get it back.
But he did tell me that a woman got into his car, and I guess she found the bag and said that it was her bag. And he said, give it to me. He said, he didn't believe her that it was her bag.
Yeah, right.
And he said, what's in the bag? He opened it up, and she just made up
Had no
stuff.
idea. Right.
And he said, this isn't your bag.
Yeah.
And
well, good. So he
So I
was
got
an
it back.
honest guy, as it turns out.
he was. And I gave him a very generous tip.
Very nice. And the wedding was fun?
The wedding was great. It was in this, I've never been to, I actually, the last time I was in St. Pete, I did stand-up. I did a college, like
Oh, okay.
30-something, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a really cool town. We went to the Salvatore Dali Museum, which is incredible.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And the venue was in this kind of industrial space. It was indoor, outdoor, but you walk in and it's all brick, and it's, just like a warehousey kind of like kitschy warehouse look to it. Food was great. Music was great. I will send you a video of my mother-in-law
Oh,
because
yeah?
she's 94 years old. She is sharp as a tack. She is funny as all hell.
Oh, that's awesome.
Totally see where Tom gets his sense of humor.
Right.
She was sitting in a chair. They had these kind of like glow blinking, like thin pool noodles that people were like
Yeah,
playing with.
right.
So she was sitting in a chair and it was dark, and she was air guitaring with the pool noodle and then
Wow.
taking it and putting it over her head and being wacky. So I posted it on Facebook and I said, "Meet my mother-in-law." And she responds, "What a nut job." Yeah, she's hilarious.
Oh, that's great. That's
Yeah,
great.
so it was a great trip.
What was the wedding song? Like the first dance song. Do you remember what it was? It was like,
Oh God, I
they're
don't
all the
remember.
same. It's always the same one. It's always like something by, I don't know.
I don't remember. I
You don't
really
remember?
don't.
I'm always interested to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the food, it was catered.
Yeah. The food was good.
So Juan does not believe this, but when I was growing up, we had weddings in the family and none of them were catered. My grandmothers would cook the meals. They'd make,
Wow.
they'd make just long trays of stuffed cabbage if it was my dad's mom, or huge amounts of Italian food if it was my mom's mom. We didn't have things catered. We weren't of the economic whatever status to be able to just call the caterer or the party planner or whatever that is and do that. But we had excellent food, but
And-
they worked
and-
their asses off to get ready.
And how many people were they cooking for?
Like 100,
Oh
like
my God.
legit. They were cooking for 100 people
In their kitchen.
in their kitchen. Yes.
Wow.
And the only one we didn't have was my cousin Maureen. I guess she's my second cousin Maureen, and her husband Dickie. They got married, and it was the most elaborate, beautiful, expensive looking wedding I've ever seen. Then Dickie, who as it turns out was in the mob, didn't come around for a while, as in ever after that wedding. We never saw Dickie again.
Really? So you think he
Yeah.
got whacked?
I totally think he got whacked. Dickie definitely got whacked. That is the urban, that is what we in my family believe. Nobody has seen Dickie since about 2 weeks after that wedding, so it must be over for him. 2 weeks.
Oh, so did the bride know he was in the mob?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a mob wedding. I mean, think about it. It
Oh,
was
it's a
like
mob
one of
wedding.
those
Okay.
elaborate, like, no wonder it was so elaborate. It's
Hmm.
like the mob was running the show. So anyway, that's my wedding story. So we went on a fantastic trip, just a wild, fantastic trip with lots of pop culture stops along the way. So the very first one, Saturday Night Live. Now, have you been to SNL?
Yes, I have.
It is so cool. I went to the rehearsal, which is, if you don't know this, they do a rehearsal at like 8:00 Eastern time, where they do 2 hours or so of sketches. And then by the time they get to the show at 11:30, Lorne Michaels has narrowed it down to a tight 90 minutes. So it's always interesting to see what makes it and what doesn't make it. And I always say nothing good happens after the update on Saturday Night Live. The sketches really tail off for me. But there was one sketch during rehearsal with Marcelo Hernandez as an acting teacher that I thought was hilarious, but it came at the end of the show. That ended up running near the top of the show. And then there was a bad sketch with Andrew Disnukes, who somehow it got in. I turned to Juan afterwards. I said, boy, that thing's not getting in. And sure enough, gets in. And before Weekend Update. So you just don't know. I looked at Lorne standing around there, and I'm thinking, this guy is the arbiter of what's funny. Like, this guy is the one who said, yeah, that's in. Not funny.
So the sketch that you didn't think was going to get in, how did he? So you only went to the rehearsal. You didn't go to the
Correct.
actual.
I watched the actual show.
Okay.
So
What was
I
the
watched-
reaction?
The same. I did not think
Yeah.
it was a funny sketch. Somehow it got
Yeah.
through. Sometimes I think the seniority of cast members carries sketches
Sure.
through. Like
Yeah.
Andrew Disnukes has been there for a while. By the way, what do you think of this Saturday Night Live cast? I actually really like him.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's good. And one of the what's her name? Oh God, she's I always forget her name, but she's a Groundlings
Heidi Gardner.
actress, Heidi Gardner.
Yeah,
So I
she's great.
used to, I saw Heidi Gardner for years at the Groundlings, and she's really good. But I saw so many other people that I thought were better than her.
Yeah.
But she has really grown on me. She is really, really funny.
She is good. I think the kid that Marcelo Hernandez is going to be a really big star. He's going to be he's really come into his own this season. So Saturday Night Live, fantastic. By the way, Morgan Wallen was the musical guest. Morgan Wallen, I don't know if you know this, stormed off the stage at the end of Saturday Night Live because he wanted to get the fuck out of New York and go to God's country. I'm sorry. Just screw you, Morgan Wallen. You agreed to do this gig. You knew it was in New York. You knew it was on Saturday Night Live. You know what he did? He printed T-shirts beforehand that said God's country, and he sold those instantaneously upon walking off the stage. It was the most calculated move you can think of. All of a sudden, he tweets, "I'm getting back to God's country." And at his store, at his merch store, he's got T-shirts that say, "I'm getting back to God's country." It's like, come on, milking that, working that.
I got to tell you, on my flight home from West Palm Beach, the pilot informed us that we were flying over the Gulf of America.
Oh, no. Did he really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And people sitting next to me.
Is that a new body of water? I've never heard of the Gulf of America.
And I just went, oh. And the people next to me were like, seriously?
Sue, it's the law. It's the law, Sue.
It's the law. It's the law. Shame on JetBlue. Shame on JetBlue. I thought it was a horrible, horrible thing to do. And I posted it on social media, and friends of mine were like, did your parachute shoot off the plane? Everybody's like,
right.
How many people booed? There were a lot of sighs, but nobody vocally went, oh, boo,
Right.
And it was going to LA. You would think that there would be more people that would have been
what? If the pilot
outraged.
didn't call it the Gulf of America, he could have been arrested when you landed. I mean, that's the way things are going. All right, so I saw 3 Broadway musicals, Sue, 3. I saw...
How many? How many did you see?
3. So I saw Maybe Happy Ending starring Darren Criss. It's kind of a robot romance. It's a story set in the future about 2 helper robots who both get retired, abandoned by their owners, and then they go to the old robot's home and they fall in love. It's a little bit like Her meets Wall-E. It's a really sweet show. Darren Criss is terrific in it. I think, from everything I read, it's one of the front runners for the Tony Award for Best Musical this year. Then I saw 2 revivals. The first one, Gypsy. Now, I love the musical Gypsy. It is a great old school musical. I had forgotten how many songs come from Gypsy. Let me entertain you. Together, wherever we go, whatever we do, everything's coming up roses. Rose's turn. I saw Audra McDonald, who has won more Tonys than anybody in their careers. I'm ballparking. She's won 6 or 7. As Rose. And oh my God, they get to the big song. The big song is Rose's Turn. It's near the end of the show. And I'm telling you, she is out at the edge of the stage and she is just absolutely tearing it up. Unbelievable performance. Like just an emotional, technical masterpiece. I thought just unbelievable. Wrap up a Tony, give it to her again. She's using them as doorstops, but she should get it. And Joy Woods plays Louise, which is also another really good role. She's excellent too. Then we saw Sunset Boulevard. Now, have you ever seen that show?
No.
It's a damn good show.
Seen the movie.
Saw it years and years ago with Glenn Close. This is an Andrew Lloyd Webber musical. And the director is a guy named James Lloyd, and he took this show. Nicole Scherzinger, formerly of the Pussycat Dolls, is Norma Desmond, took this show and opened it up in a really unique way, completely stripped down the set. So it was really, really simple. First musical number in the second act is Sunset Boulevard. The song is Sunset Boulevard. The Joe Gillis guy starts in the dressing room with a camera on him backstage. And then he walks up and ultimately out of the theater. And then he's out on 45th Street and the camera's still with him. And he does this whole song. He marches down 45th Street, then comes all the way back doing the song, walks in the front door of the theater, walks down the aisle and onto the stage. Brilliant. Just like totally amazing. And we didn't get, Tom Francis is the actor who plays Joe Gillis. We got somebody named Diego Andres Rodriguez. We got the understudy. He was fantastic. I can't believe the other guy could be better than him. He was so friggin' good. And it's got such big songs. Like, it doesn't happen very often. She's got a song, Nicole Scherzinger and Norma Desmond's got a song, With One Look. Have you ever heard that song? With one look, I can blah, blah, blah. So she got a standing ovation in the middle of the show.
Wow.
She just like tore in the middle of the show. Everybody's on their feet. She was great. If it was any other year, Nicole Scherzinger would probably win Best Actress in a Musical, but I think that Audra McDonald's going to win. But both were great shows. If I was to say best performance, I would say best performance was Audra McDonald. Best show was Sunset Boulevard. That is a great friggin' show. And by the way, when I was in line at Sunset Boulevard, that's when I met somebody. I originally said, I thought she said, I'm a writing friend of Sue's. And I didn't get her name. But as it turns out, she's a running friend, right?
Yes, Shelley.
And was she just hanging? Did she go to see a show or what was she doing in New York?
She goes to New York once or twice a year, and she was with a woman, right?
Yeah.
She was probably her sister. They have been doing this for the past 5 years or so.
Yep.
They take these biannual trips to New York to see Broadway shows.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she actually texted me and told me that she bumped into you.
Yeah. Yeah. It was so cool because I was like, I was in line at Sunset Boulevard and I hear, "Are you Steve?" It's like, I looked over and I'm like, yeah. And sure enough, there she is.
Well, she's a big fan.
Friends.
She's a big fan of the podcast.
Well, hi. Thank you. Shelley, right?
Shelley.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching all that stuff. It was nice meeting you. Ever so brief there. I did see Samantha, our friend Samantha, who works on booking the show for us. She was there and we had a great time. We went down to Washington Square Park where she lives. There was a march that day. I think there are many marches that go to Washington Square Park.
April 5th, right? Was that the day that everybody was...
Well, this would have been... No, it wasn't that day. It was the day of trans visibility. So there was a big march into Washington Square Park, which was cool. And then we flew back to LA. Then we flew to Vegas. We stayed at Fontainebleau, which is a beautiful hotel. And weirdly inexpensive, which makes me wonder if it's doing okay.
Is it the same Fontainebleau owners as the Fontainebleau in Florida?
As the Fontainebleau in Miami, yeah. Same Fontainebleau. They expanded to Las Vegas. It's a beautiful hotel. It's sort of laid back. It's not very Vegas-y, and that's one of the things that they're going for with it. But again, room rates, you could get in there for under $350, which is pretty damn good for a high-end hotel in Vegas. So, but I would recommend it. It. And then we went to see the Eagles at Sphere. Now, Sue, you haven't been to Sphere yet, have you?
I have not. No.
Oh my God. It's hard to even describe. I on the radio, John Ireland describes Sphere about once a week because he gets stuck in the story loop and he starts telling this. It's amazing. And the Eagles are great. One said to me beforehand, I don't know any Eagles songs. I'm like, oh no, believe me, you know every single Eagles song. And one of these nights in the long run and New Kid in Town and Desperado. What do you think they opened with?
Hotel California.
Yeah, Hotel California. It was brilliant. I mean, they come out, they're doing Hotel California, and behind them, you're on a long desert highway. and you're traveling this path while they're doing this. Oh, it's so amazing. And the weirdest thing of all was that I think you met Deacon Fry, who is Glenn Fry's son.
I didn't meet him. No.
Yeah, Deacon Fry is Glenn Fry's son. He was at my party, and I said to Juan beforehand, I said, I cannot remember ever being in the audience for a show where a friend is performing. Now, you in stand-up, you would have that experience, right?
Sure. Yeah.
I never had that experience except for, and I said to Brian, except for when we saw Bryan Cranston in Network. You know, he's on stage and we were in the audience. So I look over at the next box, Bryan Cranston.
Really?
Just happened to be there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so we got to hang out a little bit too, which was cool. But if you get a chance to go to Sphere, in fact, Sue, you've got somebody to ask if you want tickets to Sphere, because I will ask Deacon and get you in there.
Really?
Oh yeah, yeah,
oh, great.
Absolutely will.
Oh, great.
Yeah, you got to check it out. You got to check it out. It's amazing.
So I know, you know, you took me to 𝐏𝐚𝐮 here, the sports kind of version of Sphere.
Yeah.
Does it have that similar kind of feel to it?
It is,
because you're not seeing like visual kind of, like you were talking about Long Desert Highway and all of that. You're not seeing that. I mean, that's the beauty about 𝐏𝐚𝐮, is that you feel like you are
there
in the arena.
Right. This feels like you are in a gigantic movie, but I mean, you're actually in it. You're actually part of it, because it is so massive. I asked Deacon, I said, do you ever like, because there he is, he's doing Peaceful Easy Feeling, or if he's doing Take It Easy, he does the lead on that. And I'm like, do you ever think about turning around and seeing yourself 100 feet high? He said he's tried it, like you fall over. The magnitude of it is so impressive to be there. It's hard to put into words. It is a visual, just stunner. But yeah, if you can get there with Tom, we should get you there with Tom to see it.
I would love to. So it sounds like it's like immersion on steroids.
Exactly is. By the way, on the subject of 𝐏𝐚𝐮, they're breaking out and recreating The Matrix, reimagining the movie for 𝐏𝐚𝐮. So you'll be able to go there and in that whole shared reality thing, see the movie The Matrix with bullet time and all that stuff, which I think is going to be incredible.
Well, you know, when I went to the Dali Museum, I didn't go to the immersion part of it, but they had this one section where you put on it was virtual reality. And for 3 minutes, you sit in a chair and it takes you see like a white dot on the screen, and you stay on it for like a minute or so, or a couple of seconds. And from there you go into his paintings. You go into some of his paintings.
Oh, that's cool. That's
and
really
was
cool.
Really, really cool.
Did they ever explain like what was going on with the mustache? Because somebody should have said to him, Sal, the mustache is out of control.
Well, I tell you, this guy, there's no way in the world he wasn't doing psychedelics, because his paintings.
Yeah.
And then some of his large paintings, they had a QR code, and then you put it on the painting and it takes you into the painting to show you the layers of how he painted these masterpieces. And one of them, if you kind of look at it, you kind of think you see Abraham Lincoln's.
Oh, really?
Like a bust of Abraham Lincoln. And so like if you just turn and look, it's like, oh my God. But then if you take the QR code, you could see that it's layered behind some of the other part of the painting.
Ah, I see.
It's bizarro.
Like this.
Well, you know, outside the museum, it's a garden.
Yeah.
And they have his mustache. So they have two sides of his mustache, and then they have a little space in between where you could put your head. So
oh, that's funny. That's very funny.
So of course we took stupid pictures.
Of course. That's why we go places. All right. I want to say one thing. On our next show, we will be joined by the dog whisperer, 𝐾𝐚𝐮𝐥, and I am so excited about this. Do you have a specific dog question related to your home?
I have many.
Many. Good.
I have many. And when I found out that he was going to be on the show, I watched a bunch of his there's a Cesar Millan like channel that
Is
I
there
didn't
really?
even, yeah, when I was in Florida, it was. So I watched a ton of episodes, and yeah, I have a bunch of questions for him,
Cool,
and I'm
cool.
so excited to meet him.
Yeah, me too. I'm really excited about that. Hey, don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, leave us a comment, leave us a review, a show idea, whatever. If you're listening on Apple or on Spotify, subscribe to the show. Big points if you leave us a 5-star rating and a good review. And if you've got a friend like Shelly, Sue's running for, if you got a friend like Shelly, make sure to tell her or him about the Culture Pop podcast. Always looking for new listeners and new folks to watch. In the meantime, our guest today has starred in films like Wall Street, Mrs. Doubtfire, LA Confidential, Air Force One, and Best Picture winner Spotlight. On television, he's best known for his 14-year run as Captain Jim Brass on the long-running CBS hit CSI. His latest film project is the new independent movie Any Day Now. Paul Guilfoyle joins us. Paul, thank you so much for doing this. Thanks so much for coming on. Really, really appreciate it, man.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the support of the movie Any Day Now, which I'll take a moment to plug.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks for the support of that. Thanks.
Absolutely. Well, the movie, we both seen the movie. It's terrific. I knew nothing about the Isabella Stewart Garden art heist before this happened, but you're a Boston guy. It happened in Boston. How did this whole thing come together?
Yeah, well, obviously it came together like 35 years ago when these, this sort of den of thieves decided to steal all this precious art from the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, which was a famous place, by the way. Growing up as a guy going to high school in Boston, it was free, this beautiful, ornate Italian kind of villa that in it housed all this great art. It was open to the public. There was a great atrium courtyard, and trying to learn Latin, the ancient Latin, I would go there to sit and study from high school. And it was a fantastic reprieve from the city, and beautifully set up by Isabella Stewart Gardner. I think around the 1900s. She was quite an interesting person. I won't get into that, but she was fantastic and did this great donation to the city. And it housed some really great art, but free, open to the public, very kind of cool and liberal and open. And so we got together. The project of the movie came through Eric's investigation into the art heist and wanting to kind of center it around the crew that did it, who probably weren't going to it to sit in the atrium and learn about and study Cicero and Virgil's Aeneid. They were more likely just trying to scope it out.
Yeah, I actually saw the documentary not too long ago.
Right. My glad.
Yeah, which was great. But it seemed like, I mean, watching the movie especially, and I know that it's a takeoff on the real story, it looked like it was so accessible. It looked like it was so right to be robbed.
Yeah, well, I mean, I suppose, you obviously have the art of a thief in you somewhere, Sue. It was ripe to be robbed. I mean, I was thinking it's a great place to go and study as a young student trying to get educated. I suppose we had different opinions.
Check your pockets, Paul.
Yeah, she sounds like Marty.
My passport and see that I was born in South Boston. Maybe I should relate more to my relatives than my own ambitions. I mean, I guess ripe to be robbed, especially by a career art thief that's based on a real guy. And who really did steal a lot of stuff from a lot of museums, and pretty boldly at that, It felt it was his, I don't know, he felt he would look at things like it was right to be robbed. You could have been one of the crews, Sue. You have the right attitude.
Well, I'm wearing the beanie.
Yeah,
so
you get the V. You get the
there.
Yeah, absolutely, probably more than half. Because I think that's all it took. It obviously didn't take a lot of brains. It just took a really good, wool cap.
Now, am I right that these guys were never caught? Is that right?
Yeah, you're right to know that they don't know actually who did it. I mean, they suspect people. Some people have tried to claim ownership of it. And they certainly, what their big question is, they have not uncovered the art, any of it, any of the art, even the insignificant pieces that were kind of added on. So that's what makes it kind of an intriguing notion, is that it's still, the real ending is still kind of open. So no matter, even the documentary kind of doesn't come up with a real solution, you know, they have concepts of it. So we decided to take a sort of fictionalized, conceptualized idea of it, and really just, I say, focus on the personalities.
Okay. So what I wanted to say is that in the documentary, they interviewed that guy who was like a local mobster, and he admitted to the fact that he had stolen a lot of art, but he didn't cop to the fact that it was him.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're referring to the documentary.
Who is that guy?
By the two brothers. Is that right?
I guess that's
who had a certain kind of access to the museum, because they're not really trying to be too proactive with trying to tell this story. The museum themselves, you know, they're kind of maybe slightly embarrassed, or they're putting it behind themselves, or whatever, you know, they have their own reasons. I only saw the documentary kind of once briefly, so I don't know. I can't really draw much light on the documentary. And given the fact that we were working in a different direction, it didn't help me to kind of know whatever the two brothers decided to kind of unearth. I mean, it's a great story, nonetheless. I mean, the fact that, you know, by the way, 𝐴RN Go Bragh, you know, that's Ireland Forever. That's coming up. The anniversary of this heist is coming up on its 35th anniversary.
Wow.
To pick the night of midnight of the 17th of March is definitely a local idea, because everyone's pretty much at the South.
Oh, yeah.
Parade. There's a huge parade in South Boston. Well, if you're not a cop, they're off duty, and you're there for extra duty because it's such a fun thing to do. And so the police, the media, it's a bigger event even than in New York, almost, because Boston's smaller. So it took up all the air. So to go on that night and make the robbery it's definitely done by an Irish guy. You know, I mean, knowing an Irish American, you know.
Yes.
So that was kind of an interesting choice to pick that night. But I mean, I'm happy to kind of discuss the realities of the movie, what really happened, what we presume happening. But I think Eric Aronson wrote a script that is trying to say, here's a take on it, you know,
Right,
and
right.
kind of a more take in the sense of the Nouvelle Vague kind of notion of, you know, it's kind of like a messy French independent movie about the people and their lives, as opposed to let's solve the crime. I mean, you know, we could probably say if the movie really sort of almost veers away from even any opportunity to even show the heist in any detail. You know, I don't know. That's a decision that the filmmakers made, you know, to kind of even avoid the sense that it's a documentary or kind of trying to solve the crime, you know?
Right.
I was on a long-running TV show that was constantly trying to solve a crime and very good at it. I would tell people in speeches, we can solve this crime on this TV show in 53 minutes because you leave something behind, a matchbook, you know, lipstick on your collar, you know, fingernail, and we'll find you, and you won't get away with anything. And it kind of piqued everyone's interest for a while, 20 years ago, and people thought any crime can be solved with these dudes, which was kind of right. I used to tell people in speeches, at fancy speeches, I would say, in black tie, I would say, now don't go trying to commit a crime. You may be thinking of it because these guys from CSI, and they'll find you in 53 minutes. It won't take any time at all. But I think that given the fact that it's been 35 years since the heist and no one can find even a semblance of the art, even in the underworld, even in, you know, locked in a vault in a foreign country, anywhere. I mean, there's all kinds of theories about it.
Yeah.
And those just create a kind of general, you know, thematic discussion among people who are wearing knit caps.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you're an actor, so let's talk about character. This seems like a really fun character to play. He's criminal, obviously, but he's funny. He's roping Steve into this heist. And there's a scene where you sing a song about the Charles River, and I apologize, I don't know the name of that song.
Dirty Water, it's called, by the Standells.
You absolutely killed that thing. Tell me about shooting that particular scene.
Oh, well, that came late in the movie, by the way, and everybody was we were working in a bar, an Irish bar, famous Irish bar in Boston, Irish American bar. And so we took it over. We had a sizable amount of extras and a pretty good band. And, play a little bit of music, know how to do what little we could play. And the song is pretty much an anthem. I mean, they play it after every Boston Bruins game. And growing up, it was, on the radio when I was a kid. And, same time trying to study Latin and trying to listen to the Standells. It's called Dirty Water, referring to the Charles River. And which was, I don't know if it was really H2O at that time. It's more with beer. But anyway, they've cleaned it up since, by the way. Boston is very scientific and good at that. But so so the scene was done pretty quickly. Everything in independent cinema is done quickly. There's not a lot of time. But we had some rehearsals, and the band is great, and we sang that. And we also sang an Ian McCall song about a town, dirty old town. So we have dirty water, and we have a dirty town. That was kind of the idiomatic expression of Boston at the time in 1990, when things were a little slushier and darker and denser, and people were wearing secondhand clothes more.
What I love about the scene, I mean, I know you're all actors, but it kind of looked like the actors really didn't know you were coming up on stage.
Oh, that's good.
It was so genuine.
That was kind of the boldness of this guy. And also, the real guy that I'm playing, he was a rock and roll dude. He had a band. He was famous for in riding a motorcycle right on stage when he felt like singing and playing. I think he even opened for the Dave Clark Five in the day. I mean, he's older than me, even if that's possible. He's quite a character, and he does take over. And the idea was, my guy in telling the story was always trying to be a protector of Steve. He was fulfilling his promise to make him into a guy, to turn him into a bold thief, to turn him into a human being the way he saw it as a human being, to give him credence and give him a kind of a conflict-free life by, living a life against the law, doing whatever he wanted. I mean, there's a scene also when he's eating a sandwich. You said, you should have the sandwich that you want to have. I mean, if you don't want onions in it, you tell them no onion. I mean, you get what you want. I mean, it's kind of, it was beautifully written. It's kind of like metaphoric for how he looks at life. You should get the things you want. I mean, it was very clear. So I think the point was to save Steve and show him he had a protector.
Yeah. So Eric Aaronson did an interview I read. By the way, you guys opened at the Boston Film Festival, which must be really, really cool to be the opening presentation there. Eric talked about how tough it is to make a movie right now. And, we live in this world where there's streaming and theater business. I used to own movie theaters. That business has sort of declined a little bit. How hard is it right now, from your perspective, to actually make a movie?
Well, I mean, of course, I get called when you have to use the hockey metaphor, because I love hockey, you have the rink, you have the ice, you have the Zamboni, you have the people, you have the uniforms, you have the bench, you have the sticks and the puck and the referees. And, that's hard to put together. Think of it just putting it together from scratch. And then you have to get people to actually come. That seems to be the part that we're doing now, to come and look at it in the midst of all this accelerated part of life where everybody seems to be satisfied with getting something on their phone. To have them come out and want to commune and get together and collectively witness something is, I don't know, I find that psychologically hard. And then there's the economics of it, which are just a vast sinkhole with, if you fall into it, you're lucky. I mean, if you don't, I don't know, it's very, very hard to, for me to talk about, because I usually come late in the game when things are in place. But you can imagine putting it together now. It's hard. I mean, what do you guys think?
Well, as I mentioned, I used to own movie theaters, and I sold them back in 2016. And my friends that are still in the business, that business is really, really struggling right now. And I also noticed that smaller distributors, independent distributors, because there are fewer theaters, are having a hard time to actually get it in a theater on screen. And so I think it's tough. I mean, what do you think the state of the business is in general?
Well, I mean, that's a really open question and wild, and any small ideas I have are just really personal. But, let's face it. I mean, I think when people wanted to kind of get everyone to come to a sort of like the tentpole movies, whether they're Marvel comics, nothing, everything, again, with a lot of friends of mine work in them. I mean, Bob Downey and Mark Ruffalo, people like that I've known and worked with and admire their work. People go, everybody shows up in them because it's a game, and it's what people want. It's like saying, we want the roller coaster. We want a sensate experience. And so, I don't know, I think for a while, because it was economically feasible, people tuned people into accepting that as an appetite. They grew an appetite for people. They got people addicted to it in a way. And so to look at smaller, more drama-driven, smaller projects that are really looking to connect with you emotionally on another level, on the level of daily life. A lot of people tell me, I don't really want to watch anything that's, tragedy, because, I have enough stuff in my life, and they don't realize that is the way that you helps you out of that kind of tragic moment, is to watch something, to witness art and connect with it, and in that way have a denouement. Anyway, so I think generally the psyche has been pushing towards these big blockbuster movies, and then those themselves seem to have fallen short.
Yeah, those are falling short now.
When they are in their course, there's really nothing to turn to. People, I think, right now don't know where to turn to. They've made movies slightly, if I can say this, irrelevant. It's hard to say.
Yeah, that is hard to say.
Right. Well, it's not just movies. I mean, it's TV as well. I work in TV. And I would say 90% of my friends are not working. And I started in scripted and then went into reality stuff. And, even trying to sell shows, it's like, we don't have the bandwidth, it's like, we can't take this on, and sometimes you don't know if they're just full of shit because they don't like your
risk
project.
aversion is the nature of business. Business is based on risk aversion. So everybody sees risk, and there's risk everywhere. Heck, I mean, people are talking about it now. I listen to Jamie Dimon and the head of Goldman Sachs and BlackRock and those guys. They're all talking about risk aversion in general. I mean, we're living in an age of risk aversion, and our government is taking great risks. I mean, it's just they're taking risks with our lives. So it seems a very, very odd time to be discussing independent film. But however, I think things will go underground. Personally, I think in my being older, I think that people will have to seek it out, and it will be individuals who are seekers will go. But the people who are looking to be entertained, I think they've seen it come and disappear. I don't think we can actually reach them to entertain them. We have to reach them to inform them, or reach them to experience something or witness something through a movie or art or plastic arts or museums. And I just got back from the theater in London, saw some very interesting, energized London theater. I mean, it's really an open-ended question, and it's not solvable in our discussion today.
Yeah, there are smarter people than me certainly discussing it right now.
Well, I mean, but for what end? I mean, do you want to make money out of it, or do you want to provide something to, move the conversations forward? Move people's healing forward. I don't know. Can't do that.
Do you think it's touched theater as much? Because, I mean, if you go to New York, I mean, every theater has a play. I would think that theater is still thriving. Am I
I think suffers. I think this whole form, and I'm only talking as an individual now. I have no reason to say this. I have no expertise in it. But the whole form of all of our expressions in the art world seem to be finding safety, and they're going towards things that are tried and true. And I think branding has invaded our lives in a way that people want everything that's branded. I know from my 24-year-old daughter, she likes to form the experience online with her friends before she has the experience. They want to know who's coming, what's going on, where we're going to meet, what's going to go on, who exactly has been invited. When I lived in an age of what Lewis Mumford called, in this, talking about cities really, he called it a grand improvisation, where you just showed up and whatever happened, and you dealt with more existentially. I don't think that attitude, I think I didn't carry that attitude on enough. This movie is a grand improvisation in a way and touches into that urban quality of like, we're just going to show up and see what happens. I mean, their planning is fairly minimal, but, essential and good and complete, but it's not like the giant Hollywood version where it's all about the planning and the execution as if we're watching a symphony or a football game. This is really more like jazz. So
Yeah.
the grand improvisation.
So you studied at the, you studied at the Actor Studio.
Yeah, I don't think you call it study. You sort of practice there the way you go to
Practice.
therapy. I mean, yeah, kind of in a way you listen and you get as much out of it by witnessing, almost like church,
Yeah. Now, did you work with Lee Strasberg?
Well, I was there when he was there, yes, and I wasn't going as much then. I still don't go as much as I'd like to. I kind of work a lot, but yeah, famously, yes, and he's one of the influences, of course. But just to listen to him, I mean, you really didn't want him to kind of point his finger at you or whatever. But it was tough. It was kind of a little bit more of a closed club. And people use it for various reasons, but it's essentially kind of trying to look deeper into this, the psychology of character development, building a character, of preparing as an actor, of treating yourself as an artist, of really, I wish I probably did that better, picking and choosing, working with people that you like, but all the people I worked with and were inspired by and mentored by were all from that realm of work, represented by the Actor Studio.
Who were some of the actors that you started with?
Pacino is one, really. I mean, I have to send regards to Al. It was great working with him always in the theater. And, we did a little movie together, a couple of little movies that he produced, Looking for Richard, one, and The Local Stigmatic, another one. Small independent films. Some were only as long as the play. I mean, Local Stigmatic, we didn't even know how to make it a film. We just made it really as a filmed play on a location. And, through it also, there's a director named David Wheeler who was very instrumental in my, forming myself as an actor, because he was extremely interested in exploration and very good at not really telling you how to do it, just being quiet or enthusiastic and present. And he was around his whole life. He was supporting me from when I was young into my 20s. He sort of chose me and put me in the Theater Company of Boston, and when I was young, and gave me roles that he knew I was suited for, and with very limited and essential direction, but very, very, as I said, alive, there, and with you. And when you didn't have something right, he would do this sort of, shaking his hands like he was screwing in a light bulb, and meant you have to work harder, either illuminating and I called it light bulb because you would either illuminate or take some light off. And then when you're in the pocket of it, it was like being with a kid who heard the ice cream truck coming to the playground. He just was very enthusiastic and alive, and what a great guy. And he's been dead for 15 years, but I still feel like I still learn lessons from him all the time about the value of the work, about the consistency to keep exploring. And I learned that from Al too. From Al, it was the idea of this is work you do all the time. You take it with you to a cafe. You would rehearse while you're having a coffee. You'd talk about it. It would be in your life all the time. You didn't take time off from it. I'm talking about just working on one character. He would continue to develop it and talk about it. And even if it was for a little bit of time and then you'd order coffee, you talk to someone else, you have some, then you talk about it. It would continuously be present. You never let go of it. You were like a dog with a bone. And even when you had finished chewing on it, you buried it, which he did with a couple of roles. So that was astounding to me, where I thought it was much more inspirational. It was astounding to see how the work carried on in the private time of your life as well.
God, that is so interesting. So it's like a dog with a bone, and then you bury the bone.
Well, you buried the bone because you didn't want anyone else to do it after you. I had finished doing American Buffalo by David Mamet, and we were reading it at Lee Strasberg's apartment, another play by David Mamet that we were going to do. And halfway through, Lee was there, and a couple other producers wanted to see, and we were reading it for them. And it was in the 70s. And I said, and during the halftime, I said, during a little break, I said, Al, I just finished doing American Buffalo, and that's a great play. That's a play, if you want to do a David Mamet play, you should do that. And he looked at me and kind of, shocked. He went, oh. And then he went and grabbed the bone and did it for like 5 years and then buried it. I mean, there was no chance to do it again for a while because he had ate the whole bone. He took on that play. And that was the end of that particular David Mamet production. Lee Strasberg was great to move on from it, I guess. But so that's what I mean about burying the bone. You're not going to dig it up because you found out that there's nothing on it. Yeah.
Right. Well, I am obviously a big film noir fan. I've got the Chinatown poster right above me, always on screen. You were in one of the great L.A. noir movies of all time, L.A. Confidential.
Yeah.
Incredible cast. Curtis Hanson, the director. Oh, it had that look. It had that vibe. When you're making a movie like that, do you know it's going to be a classic? Do you have some sense that there's greatness there?
Boy, that's a tough one to answer, especially because it has to go with your own personal life. I think I could probably be more tuned into that now than I was when I was younger. And also, but I really enjoyed, as a matter of fact, somewhere here I have a little note from Curtis thanking me, and because I did some extra work for him on a Sunday for free and stuff. But, and we also had some extra scenes. He was developing that role a little bit more, the Mickey Cohen role that I played. Yeah, I mean, I just think in Curtis's hands, these directors that have, I kind of telling you about this way of communicating easily, without really feeling their anxiety. You just feel their intention. And it's very kind of open and curious. It maintains this open, curious mode. There are a few of them. Curtis had that. I mean, Mike Nichols had it in spades. Directors have this. Even Wolfgang had it because he was an actor. He would always come over and very gently be with you. He never felt like you were, you always felt you were like that term, in good hands.
Mm-hmm.
And so as an actor, you felt that you then could take risks and you could, keep exploring. They weren't afraid of, more exploration. They weren't looking for a result. They were looking for a process. And Curtis had that and that. So I think that now I know when I'm in that kind of world, and Eric Aronson has it. And Jan Eagleson, who was on the set too with Eric, he knows it very well. Those are the things that give you this buoyancy and allow actors to do their job too, to come out with stuff. And I'm sorry, I mean, it was so sad that Curtis, died young, I think, but I still keep the note he gave me with a bottle of champagne of thanking me for giving him a free day.
Nice.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I was reading that he flew in Russell Crowe and Guy Pearce early because they were living out of the country to be in L.A. and really soak up L.A. before they took on the roles. And I guess studios didn't want these guys because they weren't American. They were Australians. Nobody knew who they were. It was a big film. And then I was reading that and I don't know if you were part of this, but he said that he had taken the cast and he would have them watch films that he felt were important and influential and would help with being in the film. So what was that like?
Yeah, I know. He sent well, that was, and he also sent a lot of research material to me of, I didn't know, I knew gangsters, but they're mostly East Coast guys. I mean, South Boston guys were more like, they kind of look more like Irish cops, and yet they were gangsters. Anyway, they were, but he sent me a lot of material on Mickey Cohen that I looked at a lot. And I used a couple of lines at Mickey Cohen, and his voice too. I mean, a couple of things he said, he respond because he was a pretty no-nonsense, essential guy, kind of, said things very essentially and cryptically. The way like Red Auerbach, if you could picture how he would talk, still in a gruff tone of his native Brooklyn, I guess, Mickey Cohen. But anyway, he sent me a lot of information about him. And so Curtis was always very, involved in the process. He wanted everybody to have all the detail for sure. I mean, I think that Russell and Guy, I don't know if this is true, but I don't think they were like the best of friends in that little town in Australia. I mean, they were in the theater companies and I think competing for the same parts. It isn't always, but he put them together. And I mean, the cast in general was great. I mean,
amazing. Yeah. So you did CSI, you mentioned it, for 14 years, I think.
Well, I might have been one or two less than that because I left a little earlier than the whole show, thinking that everybody would notice that I was leaving, but people never even knew that I left. I mean, it was so people say, why did you leave? I mean, because it was lucrative. I mean, I don't know. There's a time in life where it's important to, take care of the economics of your own family and put people in college and be philanthropic even. There's a time in life I didn't expect it to go on as long, but it certainly is. It's called the shower, and you certainly stayed in the shower a little longer maybe than I should, but I thought the work we did, and I know I tried and did, and maybe to some people's dismay, still did the work the way I knew how to do it, and built a character out of whatever fabric they left me to weave it out of. Not much sometimes, but made a character as best as I could. That would be that I'm proud of doing that work there. Yeah.
When you're playing a character, I was going to say, when you're playing a character as long as you have, at some point, did you feel like being a detective was your day job?
That's an interesting question. I really never think I can say this to you. I never think, like probably we don't either. I never think about my character as what he does for work. I always don't. I mean, I like the first, if I'm a lawyer and I think, well, the guy's actually a drunk. I mean, I really don't think about, I'm a lawyer and the wardrobe department wants to put me in 3-piece suits all the time. I said, no, this guy's in a sweatpants and a baseball cap. I mean, at this particular time, he's not, we are not who we are as defined by our jobs. I mean, in the character ranks, they don't have a lot of time to develop your, they're kind of out of time and space. So often I wasn't thinking of myself as a detective. People have asked me that question. Did you follow detectives around? I said, no, I'm really looking for a guy how did he survive seeing all this detritus of humanity and looked for a sense of gallows humor, a sense of survival techniques, a sense of hanging on to his own skills of, awareness of his own, maybe locked up a little bit, kind of skills of how he got by every day, what he hung on to. And as time went on, the writers supported that, and they supported these sort of sardonic asides that I would make, and they would write for that. And curiously enough, this is an interesting thing that never happened to me before. As time went on, the character's backstory was already present in these hundreds of episodes that I did. So I could take a little look at a little girl running by. I would take a moment, a little tiny 8-year-old, I said, have that little girl run through the scene outdoors, and I'm interviewing somebody in a mean way. And I stopped and watched her just go by, 8-year-old. And everybody went, oh my God, he's thinking about his daughter, which is exactly what I inserted. Because they knew I had this backstory with a lost daughter that was kind of a mess and really a serial killer. But anyway, a mess and had problems, and because it's television. But I would have a moment of release of that, just a simple glance, and people were so tuned into the kind of the backstory of that they did it themselves. They helped me create it. The character got created over time in real time, rather than me having to invent it. You know what I mean?
I do.
All the episodes in their head. It was like a kaleidoscope of resources that I just had to kind of just touch on. And I'd ask. Directors sometimes go like, what do you mean? Just have that girl look. She was actually the daughter of one of our medics. I said, just have her run by and I'll look at her and smile and she'll see me, and boom. It was like instantaneously for me, it was so fulfilling. Those little tiny moments were what kept me going.
We talked to Rocky Carroll, actor from CIS a while back, and we were talking about the success of his show, and I think this applies to CSI as well, that one of the reasons why those shows work so well and have lasted so long is that there is just a simple justice to them. There's a reassuring, simple justice.
Yeah.
There are
Yeah.
good guys, there are bad guys, and the good guys win. And there's something really reassuring about that.
You're absolutely right. It's sort of, well, let's call it metaphysical. I mean, there's something that's deeper than just the show, because frankly, and not this matters, but the CSI show started that, and then everything became science-oriented, technology-driven. We're going to get the truth. And it came out at a time, I've spoken about this, so I kind of have a theory. It came at the time when the OJ trial was on, and everybody couldn't understand. People really were getting really adept at lying. So we couldn't take anyone's word for it. The original CSI, which I liked, which was like a Kurosawa movie, people would tell the story, and then we'd show the reality of what happened. And as we found different pieces of evidence, they would revisit that flashback, and it would change because we would find more of the true information. The person who was arrested would tell a story, but the story was never true. So we could never believe anyone. So the fact that the thing is that we got is that the evidence never lies. So it came out of this idea that people really wanted to stop the lying and let's get the truth. And we were, I think, in love with technology at the time. So if you could wave a wand on a wall and go like, I did it, whatever, you could see fingerprints, and we had all this. I think some of it is actually real, but we also did it very quickly. Like I said, 53 minutes and we'll find you.
Exactly. So I wanted to circle back to Any Day Now and we talked a little bit about your work going back to Al Pacino over the years. Any Day Now feels like it could have been made in the 70s.
That's so true.
Movies were so good in the 70s. They were character driven. They were about people, not stuff. And it feels like Any Day Now fits that category.
That's so true. I mean, we talked a little bit to the Tribeca Film Festival, and they were giving an award to Mean Streets. It was having its 50th anniversary. So the idea of showing our movie and they felt we didn't want to overburden people with the 70s. So I remember hearing that back. But you're right. I mean, I also think it also looks like 1990. I mean, how we pulled that off on the budget we had is amazing. But it has a real feeling of that.
That is my dog, Veronica. I think. Come here.
We couldn't hear her.
Oh, you really couldn't hear her? Oh,
No.
my goodness. Okay, sorry about that.
Oh, we love the aside. That is my dog, Veronica. I didn't know I didn't know who was going to show up. I didn't know it was going to be Debbie Harry or who was going to come in.
This is Veronica.
Oh, there's Veronica. Very good.
She's a very good girl. Anyway, we were talking about the 70s and how Any Day Now fits into that.
And Veronica then responded the second.
Correct. She jumped in on the conversation.
Well, that's great.
That's
Yeah, the
very
70s,
savvy.
I mean, not many people. I mean, that can pretty much, that just destroys an audience that we're going for. The 70s, okay, I can turn that off. I have this, the relatedness of the 70s. It was certainly a grungier time when people didn't have great plans and had a lot of sort of boldness and were kind of always struggling for their identity, or usually just struggling for survival of just getting anything together. And also everything was very American. We were pretty isolated. So we might be heading back there.
Yeah, right.
I miss it.
Last thing for you. Why is Boston such a great canvas for movies?
Well, I think that's probably happened recently. Maybe, and I'm only thinking this out loud, I don't have an answer, other than to chat, I think maybe because there's still an element of these relatable people, working class, relatable neighborhoods, because it's a city of, really different yet separate neighborhoods, that are very distinct. Philadelphia is a little bit like that too. A big city, though, it has but not too big. It has an elasticity, and also has a distinct class problem. So that relatable. There's, an upper class in Boston and a working class, and the accents are very severe. So I think maybe there's some of that, and also it's a hard weather town. It's not like what you get in LA. It's, there's serious obstacles to your pleasure, meaning it's freezing cold and it's slushy and it's windy and difficult to get around. So I think maybe, and yet it has this promise of a gentrification, of a hopeful past that looks sort of in a way almost like London. I don't know. I'm just guessing that it's a number of those things, but I think it has to do with the character of the people.
Yeah. Well, listen, Any Day Now, we had it's such a good movie. Congratulations on it. It will be in theaters and it's going to be streaming, and it's great to meet you. It's great to talk about acting and talk about process and all that stuff. It's been terrific. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Steve. Thanks a lot, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. And thanks for your support of the picture.
There you have it, Paul Guilfoyle joining us, and really, really cool movie. And I do mean that about the 70s. For me, all the best movies were made in the 70s, from about 1968 to about 1975. That was like the golden age of movies for me, and this feels like it fits into that category.
I was just having this conversation with a friend about this year's movies, or last year's movies, and she was saying to me, I wasn't really like crazy about anything. Like, she said, I think of the 70s, and same conversation. They just don't make those movies anymore. You think of like The French Connection and Coming Home and and
Bonnie and Clyde
Bonnie
and
and Clyde.
Network and Dog Day Afternoon, and
Every movie was great, and what you were talking about is it was all story and character work, which is really why I like a lot of British shows.
Yeah, you are big on the Brits.
Well, I like British shows more than I like American shows because the characters are richer.
Now, do you watch BritBox? Do you have that thing?
I don't. You would think I would, but I
don't.
Yeah,
you should.
I know, I know.
Juan's mom and stepdad, they have BritBox. I always joke, I was down there when the NFL playoffs were going on, and I was really excited, but they don't have, it was Netflix. They don't have Netflix, but they do have BritBox. So Christmas Day, I watched BritBox instead of Netflix, and I didn't see the big Christmas Day game, but they're smart.
Well,
they're smarter than me. They're NPR BritBox people.
Well,
you know those folks.
Well, I mean, I totally get it. I totally get it because the writing is great, and they're like characters that they just have so much depth.
Yeah, they do. And Paul was talking about the layers, and I love the fact that he was talking about layers to his character in CSI, because obviously stuff is going on, but for him as an actor, there's different stuff going on. There's that backstory that he's taking advantage of. And even if we don't see it or get the vibe, it's still there. It's still happening, which I love as an actor.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, he was talking about the whole, if he was playing a lawyer, you wouldn't see him in a three-piece suit, you would see more of who the character is than what you expect him to look like.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, seek the movie out. It's called Any Day Now. Terrific stuff. Paul Guilfoyle, great actor. Love talking about the actor's studio and Pacino and all that kind of stuff. Sue, it's great seeing you, and we will see everybody next time on the Culture Pop Podcast.